On returning to their location, no time is wasted in getting the vehicles into the parking place allotted to them. All vehicles of the park are now full, so that it has 25 miles of petrol, oil and lubricants for all divisional units, and 75 miles for corps troops. We will now leave the sub-park where the vehicles are likely to remain until the evening and move forward to study the petrol situation with the units in the division which it serves. We find that all have been replenished during the night, so that, in accordance with the laid-down principle, the tanks of all vehicles are filled to start the day's work. Unit petrol lorries were loaded to their capacity, providing units with an immediate reserve. The divisional petrol companies are all full, carrying 50 miles of petrol, oil and lubricants for all units in their division. Each vehicle is loaded with oil and lubricants in a laid-down proportion to the petrol it carries. Notice the careful camouflaging of this lorry. All day movement will take place. Movement to outwit the enemy and to counter his plans. Movement to ensure for our army greater rapidity of action than that achieved by the enemy. Movement to give the commander that freedom of action implied by the principle of mobility. Movement which can only be made possible by the use of petrol. All day long the movement will go on until in the evening men and machines must come to a halt for a while. A halt caused partly by the approach of night, but more by the necessity for men to feed, weapons to receive new supplies of missiles, and vehicles more petrol. Orders are issued accordingly by the CRASC to the Divisional Petrol Company for the establishment of petrol points. The Divisional Petrol Company is bivouacked in the rear of the divisional area, probably 12 to 15 miles from the forward defended localities. One or more petrol points may be required, the number being largely dependent on the area occupied by the division. The guiding principle being that all units must be within reasonable distance of a petrol point. The estimate of the amount of petrol to be held at petrol points is based on the amount of movement during the day. The message from CRASC arrives at the headquarters of the Divisional Petrol Company. The company commander sends for one of his section officers, and while awaiting his arrival, discusses the petrol situation with the divisional petrol officer. The section officer arrives, is shown the message, and is told to establish the petrol point. The section officer returns to his section, where he gives instructions to his section sergeant and subsection commanders regarding the establishment of petrol points. He then goes off to carry out a reconnaissance of the petrol points, arranging a rendezvous at which to meet the vehicles. In the meantime, the company commander, in consultation with the divisional petrol officer, makes out a demand to the sub-park for the amount of petrol he estimates will be required at petrol refilling points. stating the time at which he can take delivery of it. The message is dispatched by one of the motorcyclists attached to the company from the sub-park for this special purpose. Notice the park number on the motorcycle. The lorries detailed for one of the petrol points have arrived and are parked awaiting the arrival of demands from units. One vehicle has already arrived and is taking on board its load. This petrol point, established in one of the forward brigade areas, has good concealment from the air and room to allow ample dispersion. On completion of loading, the unit representative gives a receipt to the supply petrol detail responsible for the issuing of the petrol, before returning to his unit. A simple traffic circuit has been arranged, and vehicles have been parked to allow tailboard loading. This should be done whenever possible, to avoid the double labor of offloading to the ground and then loading from the ground to lorries. In the case of a unit requiring petrol in excess of the carrying capacity of its own petrol vehicle, whole lorry loads may be sent from the petrol point to the unit. Here a motorcyclist has arrived with a demand which entails the dispatch of a 3-ton lorry containing 640 gallons of petrol to a unit. A lorry carrying this amount is handed over to him. He leads it off to his unit. The NCO in charge of each petrol point is responsible for keeping a petrol state with the AB 55 vouchers showing the issues made. When all customers have been served and closing time arrives, the petrol point packs up and returns to its section location.